This is lesson 5.7. I'm going to teach you guys how to use Microsoft Excel to do the problems for you. If you remember before break, when we were doing the last lesson, you had to draw a bunch of points from a problem onto a graph, and then you had to draw your own line. If you look here, this is the workbook 5.7. This is page 81, and this is what we're going to be working on today. So you want to open your workbook to page 81. And before today, what we would have done is we would have plotted these points onto this graph, and then you would have just drawn a line with a ruler. Well, today we're actually going to use Microsoft Excel, and Microsoft Excel is going to find the best fitting line that fits perfectly through those points. So the first thing you need to do is open Microsoft Excel. I'm using a Mac, so on mine it's down here. On yours, if it's Windows, you're probably going to go down to the lower left and hit the Start menu, and under Programs somewhere you'll find Microsoft Office and Microsoft Excel. And when you open it up, you want to start a new blank workbook. So your goal right now is to get Microsoft open. You should have something that looks somewhat similar to this. Again, I'm working on a Mac, so mine doesn't look quite the same as yours, but it'll be very close. You'll have this empty area full of squares here, and you can click around in those. First thing you want to do is make a little title so you know what you're doing. This is page 81. I'm doing number 1. And what I'm going to do is reproduce the table that they put in there. It doesn't matter where you put this inside of the cells. You can just pick any cell. So I'm going to start right here. We've got an X and a Y row, so I actually type X, hit enter, type Y, hit enter, and you can use the arrow keys to get around after that. And then you want to go to the right and type in exactly what they have in the workbook there. So X is -1. You can see in the workbook this is what I'm typing in right here. And each box is a new cell in Microsoft Excel. So -1, 0, 1, 2, 4. And each time I type one of those, I'm actually hitting tab, the tab key. That'll make the cursor go to the right. If you hit enter after you type, it'll go down, which is kind of annoying. So instead, if you type and hit tab, it'll go to the right, which makes this a little bit easier. There, and now we've got these tables. We don't need any fancy formatting, but at least our first step is done. We've typed in the data. Now here's the beauty of Microsoft Excel. You can click and drag. Here's my mouse. I'm going to move up to X, and I'm going to click drag down to the other corner. This is your goal right now, is to get all those cells selected just like that. And after I've done that, I'm not going to click anywhere else. If you click somewhere else, it'll deselect everything you just did. So you need to click drag, let go, and just leave it there. And then under the Insert tab, up on the top here, you're going to find some charts. And you want to find the one with the little dots. That's called a scatter plot. Just the plain old dots right there. And if you do that, bam, it just automatically charts all of those points that you just selected. Okay. The blue dots are the points that they've charted. If you want, you can mess around with things by double-clicking them or left-clicking. You can like change the size of the dots or the colors. You can put in backgrounds and all sorts of fun stuff like that, but you don't need to. So once you have that chart, that's half of the problem is done right there. And the second half is we need to add a trend line to that chart. So while the chart is selected, okay, if you click outside the chart, you haven't selected the chart. If you click in the chart area, you'll see you get these boxes around it, and you see that the top thing changes a little bit. You get these extra tabs here if the chart is selected. So make sure your chart is selected, okay, and then go over to Insert. Apparently it's not in Insert. Where is it here? Add chart element. There we go, trend line. So under one of these new tables, the chart design tab on my screen, hopefully it'll be the same on your Windows version. I've found this add chart element, and I'm adding a linear trend line. So bam, It draws the trend line. That is the line of best fit through those points. And we're almost done. Now what I've done here is I've double clicked on that trend line. Okay, I've very carefully moved my mouse over to the trend line, double click that, and down here in these settings, there's a little box that says display equation on chart, and as soon as I click that, it adds this little guy here. And just for clarity, I'm going to move that up here and I'm going to make it bigger for us. Oops, or I'm going to try. Under the home key, you can increase the font size. This is the equation of that trend line. So this is the beauty of Microsoft Excel. Okay, it made the chart for me. It made the line for me. It even shows me the equation of the line. So it's like you don't even have to do any math. Now when I go back to the worksheet, it says find the equation of the best fitting line. Well, I just did. There it is. Y equals negative 1.27x. And I'm actually going to write that into my workbook. Y equals negative 1.27x plus 2.3. I've done a little bit of rounding, of course. And then it says approximate the value of y for x equals 3. All you got to do is plug 3 in for x. So it's going to be negative 1.27 times 3 plus 2.3, and you're done. Now, before you stop the video, that was number 1. We're done with number 1. When you get to number 2, you don't have to redo any of this work. All you have to do is retype the numbers for the data. So instead of number 1, now let's do number 2. And you don't even have to delete the cells. You can just move over to that cell and start typing over it. Here are the numbers for number 2. The x's are the same, but the y's are different. On number 2 in the workbook, you can see that we're supposed to use negative 1, 1, 2, 1, 5. Okay, different y values. I'm going to type those in right here. Negative 1, 1, 2, 1, 5. And as I'm doing this, do you see the graph is changing automatically and the equation is changing automatically? Okay, so all you have to do is type in new data. I just finished number 2. Number 2 is done. There's the equation. There's the line. There's the graph. Just copy that stuff into your workbook and you're done. So your job right now is to do numbers 1 through 6 in your textbook using Microsoft Excel. I'll put that in bold big letters here. That's the assignment, numbers 1 through 6. And once you've done one of them, if you did everything right, you should be able to do the rest of them lickety-split.